The Warehouse Chapter 8 page 267 to page 280. Chapter 8. Mica. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Hebrews 4:16. Courage and passion watched in fear. Teenage boys gave Mica an unjust beating. Hit him again, Joe. Knock his head off. Whack. Gurgle oomph. Your turn, Roger. Take a whack at that stupid girly face. Thud. Gurgle yowl oomph. He's all yours, Christopher. He's all yours, Christopher. Knock his teeth out. He don't know how to use them, anyways. Whack. Oomph yowl gurgle. The big doors of the warehouse glided open, and Daddy G stood in the open door with his hands on his hips, looking like the Jolly Green Giant. What's the trouble out? Hit him again, Joe. Look at him crying. Gurgle oomph yowl. Stop! Shouted Daddy G with his commanding voice. The fighting immediately stopped, and three red-faced boys looked up at Daddy G, surprised and a little embarrassed. What's the trouble out here, oh? What's going on? This behavior is not like you, Roger. Christopher. I am ashamed of you. I am ashamed of all of you. Mica, come inside the warehouse, please, Daddy G commanded. You boys go home. I will discuss this with your fathers later. The three offending boys slinked away like a pack of submissive dogs with their tails between their legs. The warehouse door slammed shut. Mica Burnett was the cutest little cuddly baby 15 years ago. That's not to say he was no longer cuddly, but what teenager wants his friends to see him cuddling with his parents, even if he wants to? Unfortunately, as Mica grew, the palate in his mouth did not grow at the same rate as the rest of his body. So, when Mica started talking, he had the cutest little baby talk. However, now, a young teenager of 15, Mica did not consider his impediment cute. He was so embarrassed that he spoke softly and chose his words carefully. He did not want people to know that he could not say the sound. Despite his speech impediment, Mica was brilliant. He had a keen sense of humor, had a commanding grasp of multiple interests, and made excellent grades in school. However, Mica was hesitant to interact with the other kids. All through school, Mica's speech caused him great emotional pain so that by the time he was 10 years old, he had developed a severe stutter. Mica, my sweet, I wish I could make it better for you, his mother often said. However, though she took him to speech therapy and anatomy specialists, her compassion would not make Mica feel better. Finally, Mrs. Burnett made a doctor's appointment with Dr. Rich. Wisdom, curiosity, and compassion accompanied Mrs. Burnett and Mica to the doctor's office, and the fairies were surprised by the visit. Good afternoon, Dr. Rich, Mrs. Burnett greeted the doctor. Good afternoon, MWS. Bonnet, Dr. Rich returned the greeting. Curiosity gasped in disbelief as Dr. Rich spoke. Mica was shocked. HHETT talks LL like MME, Mom, said Mica. Dr. Rich examined Mica's mouth, tongue, palate, and lips. Finally, Dr. Rich turned to Mica and said in all seriousness, Well, Mica, it seems to me that you and I have something in common besides being good-looking, said Dr. Rich with a wink. Neither of us can pronounce the aw sound. Then, Dr. Rich turned to Mica's mother, Ms. Bonnet. This speech impediment is called rhotacism, and is quite common, and treatable, encouraged Dr. Rich. As for Mica's stutterwing, that, too, is treatable. He need not live with this all his life. I choose to wave out back to my rhotacism to make my patients feel more comfortable. Oh, whispered Wisdom, he is a wise doctor. That's wonderful news, Dr. Rich, exclaimed Mrs. Barnett, a bit more relaxed. At this point, Dr. Rich began speaking with clearer sounds. Let's start and see how he progresses, prescribed Dr. Rich. Please understand, Mrs. Barnett, even with therapy, Mica may revert to his rhotacism, especially when he feels stressed. Several days later, was when Daddy G rescued Mica from a beating, and it was the beginning of Mica's extraordinary life. Well, Now, Mica, what was that altercation all about? Asked an omniscient Daddy G. It was not Feu, Mica replied in his quiet, timid manner, wiping the blood from his mouth. Is there anything I can help with? Asked an always kind Daddy G. I want to T talk like evui bb body else, cried Mica. Oh, Mica, my boy, I can think of a couple of or hundreds of people you would not want to talk like, quipped Daddy G. BB but evui 1mm makes ff fun of me, lamented Mica. That's because they have not taken the time to get to know you, and they don't understand rhotacism, Daddy G tried to comfort the teenager. If they took the time to know you, they would see how witty and intelligent you are. WW what can I do? DD Daddy G? Asked Mica. WWW want to be able to talk to P people. Do YUH have a JJ job FFOMME at the WWW house? I think we can find you a job at the warehouse, Mica. However, first, you need to learn to communicate with people, said Daddy G to a disappointed Mica. Just a minute. I think I have just what you need. As Daddy G disappeared to the back of the warehouse, Wisdom winked at Curiosity knowingly. God the Son always has the right gift. Let's see what he has for Mica, whispered Wisdom. When Daddy G returned, he was carrying a box wrapped in. Here, Mica, this is for you, and I think it will help answer all your questions, said a loving Daddy G as he handed the package to Mica. Let me know what you think of it. TT thank YYU, DD Daddy G. When Mica got home, he opened the package and studied it. Because he kept an open mind. The package contained a book entitled American Sign Language, with illustrations. Mica spent weeks learning the ASL alphabet and signs, and when he felt he was ready, Mica returned to the warehouse to show Daddy G what he had learned. Good morning, Daddy G. Thank you for the wonderful gift. Thank you for the wonderful gift, Mica signed to Daddy G. Curiosity gasped, and Wisdom smiled with pride at Mica's accomplishment. You are most welcome, Mica, Daddy G signed back. Do you think you are ready for a job? I would like to try, Mica signed. Okay, then. Here is a name and address for someone who needs a visit and encouragement, signed Daddy G, and handed the piece of paper to Mica. Mica looked at the paper, and his mouth dropped open, and his eyes bugged. I cannot do this, Mica signed. The Warehouse Chapter 8 287-290. The fairies' joy, hope, and courage fluttered about the gymnasium. Potted ficus trees decorated with little white lights offered perfect vantage points for the fairies to keep their eyes on the young couple. The gym on prom night at Grayston High School was a gala event, decorated with thousands of balloons, tiny white lights, potted ficus trees, and white carnations. The featured band was known as the Captains, a band with a beat. They played a lot of rock and roll and loud. Courage watched as Mica and Tammy arrived at the prom and saw Tammy hesitate. What's wrong? What's wrong? Mica signed. I'm afraid, Tammy signed in return. You don't have to be afraid, signed Mica. You are much too beautiful, just follow me. Mica has a surprise for Tammy, Joy whispered to Hope. I saw him practicing in his room. Hope giggled and left her spot on the tree to dance around Tammy. As the evening progressed, both Mica and Tammy became more comfortable. Mica's friends came over to meet Tammy, and she was the center of attention, and Mica was so proud. When the Captains started playing Rock Around the Clock, Mica dragged Tammy to the dance floor. At first, she protested, not knowing what to do, and just stood there. Here it comes, giggled Joy. Courage and Hope watched wide-eyed. Then, to Tammy's surprise, kneeling on one knee, still staring up at her with enchanted eyes, Mica started drumming the song Roll Beat on the gym floor with his hands. Tammy's eyes gleamed. She could feel the beat of the music on the floor and her smile widened. Soon she started moving her hips, and Mica continued drumming the floor, her taffeta rustled, and the ruffles billowed. Then the most remarkable thing happened. All the boys followed Mica's lead. The young men knelt on one knee in front of their dates and drummed the floor as their ladies danced around them. It was a dynamic night, one that Mica and Tammy would not soon forget. As Tammy snuggled into her bed that night, she wrote in her diary of her dark blue taffeta dress, white carnations, Mica drumming the floor, taffeta rustling, ruffles billowing, and a sweet goodnight kiss. The fairies, too, felt enchanted, though tired, and ready to sleep. In the following weeks, at church Mica really began to grow and mature physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. He spent hours with Tammy reading and practicing signing scripture, and Tammy signed hymns. Mica's favorite hymn was He Touched Me, by the Gaither Quartet. Shackled by a heavy burden, 'neath a load of guilt and shame, then the hand of Jesus touched me, and now I am no longer the same. He touched me, oh touched me, and oh the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know. He touched me, and made me whole. Mica, Tammy signed, why don't we start an ASL class? Are you sure you want to do that? Mica replied in sign. Yes. Mica replied in sign. Yes, I'm sure, Tammy signed with conviction. Then, let's talk to the pastor, Mica signed. On Wednesday night, Pastor Rob invited the young couple to meet him at his office. Now, what is this, you two want to do? Asked Pastor Rob. Tammy looked at Mica and nodded her head, asking him to begin. PP Pasto W Wob, Tammy and I would like to start a howing impaired ministry doing Sunday school and church services, Mica said. Mica, did you just hear what you said? Asked Pastor. When you started your sentence, you stuttered my name, then your stuttering stopped. Really? A surprised Mica replied and signed for Tammy, who responded with shining eyes. Yes, indeed, replied Pastor Rob. Now, back to your request. I think that is an excellent idea I'd rather have in this ministry. Would you like to start by signing for church services Sunday? Mica signed again for Tammy, and she thrilled. We would wub too, paste a wob, Tammy said. After their meeting, Mica and Tammy shook Pastor Rob's hand and hurried out. Come on, Tammy, Mica signed. There's someone I want you to meet. Someone I need to thank. Hand in hand, Mica and Tammy ran to the warehouse. To Mica, Daddy G gave the gift of self-confidence and communication, not to mention Tammy.